Hello and welcome to this episode of Conversations on Conflict. I'm your host, Ben Kreitzberg, Program Manager with the Conflict Resolution Center in Montgomery County. And today, for this episode of Conversations on Conflict, I have one of our special guests, Officer Mauricio Veiga. He is a police officer with the county as well as a mediator on our mediator team. So Mauricio, thank you so much for joining us today. If you want to introduce yourself really quick and just say a few words about what brought you to mediation?
Great. Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Like you said, my name is Mauricio Veiga. I'm a police officer with Montgomery County. I've lived in the county my entire life. And what I see is within my job, also the different jobs I've had throughout my life, is, giving people an opportunity to speak and be heard usually will resolve majority of the problems. And seeing this opportunity, I wanted to be a part of it and give back to the community I work in.
Wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's a fantastic transition making. Obviously you're still a police officer, but being able to take the knowledge and experience that you've had from your years on the police force and then transition that into a separate form of assistance for the community, I think is very noble. And we certainly are happy that you joined our team. And I am curious a little bit about your background. What brought you into policing in the first place?
Well, actually, like I was saying, I lived in the county my entire life. My parents, they owned a little store on Flower Avenue. Actually, it was one of the first Hispanic stores in Montgomery County, opened in 1977. All the approvals went through by 1978. And in those years, as a kid growing up, seeing things, I saw, them dealing with the public, and, help giving back to the community, what a difference that made. So I also saw the interactions between them and the police when they had a problem, when they didn't have a problem with proactive policing coming in for community policing, what impact that also made on the community. And it really caught my eye. And that's something I started focusing on. Montgomery County, we require 60 college credits. And while I was working on that, I actually worked for the school system and actually got my degree in education. So I also taught for a few years. And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed teaching, working with the public, working with students.
Just out of curiosity, what grades or what ages were you teaching?
Well, I started out with 8th grade U.S. history, and then I helped create an alternative program for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders on all disciplines. And basically what we did is any student who was having problems within school for a variety of reasons, it could be anything. We took all those students and we created this curriculum where we could give them more one-on-one attention and help them. But it was more than just going through the academics. It was also adding that personal touch to it, dealing with any emotional issues they might be going through, just showing them that someone cared and could give them that one-on-one to help them get through the struggles and help them succeed in school. As luck would turn out, my first year of teaching, there was the sniper incident, and then there was 9/11. And that I was thinking about it, the calling to be a police officer was still there. I knew it was something to do while you're still young. So I applied, and in 2003, I got accepted and went into the Montgomery County Police Academy. I've been there for almost 20 years now. But in those 20 years, I've always found a way to, work with the schools in different capacities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you never got the education bug out of you then?
I never did, no.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I'm actually kind of curious as to, you like you said, you've been on the force for nearly 20 years. How has your experience with, negotiating when it comes to conflict changed over that time? I know educators have, a ton of experience dealing with conflict, teaching kids. I don't think there's any more, you won't find more conflict outside of a 8th grade classroom. So how has that changed for you over the years?
We deal with conflict every day. Everything from, someone being towed and they're calling us because there's an issue with that, to obviously different incidents throughout the county. What I find is everyone wants to be heard. Everyone, if you give them the opportunity to be heard and speak what's going on and feel like they're being heard, it's usually the best way to resolve whatever the problem is. And throughout the years, that's been the motto many of us have. It's really becoming more instilled in the academy now. In the last couple of years, that's really something they're focusing on, communication. Obviously, we don't have the luxury like with CRCMC to be there 3 hours, but in the amount of time we have, sometimes giving someone 5 minutes to speak and actually be heard, it makes a world of difference.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. In the world of mediation, listening is the most powerful tool we have. And you actually said something interesting there. How do you, is it refreshing seeing a mediation table and seeing, mediators have the option to sit down and talk to them for 2 hours, where, you're used to, like you said, maybe sometimes only having 5 minutes to talk to somebody. Is that refreshing?
It really is. Having that luxury of having that time, it gives people the opportunity to, when they're speaking, and that's actually the nice thing about mediation is we're not there to, give people solutions or ideas and so forth. Really, by allowing them to speak and actually kind of reflect on what they're speaking, they a lot of times come up with their own solutions, and which ends up being, that buy-in for whatever the issue is. So that is a nice luxury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How tough was it, going through mediation training, as a police officer, and having to go through the whole steps of trying to relearn and reteach yourself, to step back and take that neutral position. Whereas I'm sure there's many times as a police officer, you certainly can't be neutral at all, and the situation would call for you to, to be the one to issue orders and resolve things for people.
Sure. I found the training really interesting. It was a long process, a lot of hours put into it. Very rewarding. But at the same time, as you just said, is as a police officer, and actually I think this is human nature. When you hear something, you already start thinking about what the solution should be, and giving people ideas and so forth, and really focusing on, hey, that's not what we're here for. Step back, not give them ideas, not give them solutions, but really guiding the conversation as they speak so they can come with their own solutions, and then evaluating some of the things they've come up with as solutions as if it's going to work or not work. And they kind of look at things and say like, okay, yeah, that would work. That's something we can do. So it was challenging to get used to taking that back seat and saying, no, I'm not going to, give solutions. I'm not going to say, hey, have you thought about doing this or so forth. So that was a little challenging, but it was very effective.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, I'm glad it was a good experience for you. So I want to sort of go back and talking about your career as a police officer, and what kind of training do the police go through when it comes to conflict management or conflict resolution?
So when I went to the academy 20 years ago, part of the academy, it's almost 6 months long, and there was an entire week block that we called at that time dealing with people. And basically it was both, there's a little bit of, lecture part, give tactics and so forth and how to deal with people. But most of that week was all dealt with scenario. It was all scenario based, and you were given all different types of scenarios, and how to effectively communicate with people, and not just speaking to them, but body language, proximity, facial gestures and so forth, even hand movements when you're talking to someone. Everything from the elderly person who might be lost to a child, young child, to teenagers. And we actually had role players from the community who come in and facilitate in those roles.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know they did that. I like that. Yeah.
Now, in today's they're still doing that, but they've added even more time on there on de-escalation, taking more time. Again, really focusing on what are the things we can do to just de-escalate whatever the situation is.
Mhm. Yeah, certainly. I know. Well, yes, I've heard that is something that police all over the country have been doing, is sort of trying to invest more time into de-escalation training. And I think, I think that's going to just continue to expand, and the sort of conflict resolution, conflict management is spreading through police departments all over the country. And speaking of sort of police on a national level, I would love to hear a few words from you, or your opinion on the conflict that has over the past 5, well, I guess it's been more than 5 years, but it's been more in the media in the recent years with conflict between police officers and their community. And we I feel like we never really hear from the perspective of officers who are on the street, and how they feel about that, and how that makes them feel in their position. Could you say a few words about that?
Sure. I think every organization, whether you're police or not police, we're always evolving. We're always getting better. We're always trying to get better. And I think we're the first ones to recognize, like, hey, there are always things we can do better and things we can learn from. We as officers, every one of us, when something happens, whether locally, in the state of Maryland, nationally, we all feel that. We know that it's hard for people to not distinct, to be able to distinguish between a police officer here and a police officer from somewhere else.
Mhm.
So that sometimes is a little disheartening, because we, and I can speak for Montgomery County in the last 20 years, we really strive to do our best and serve the public. I see officers daily go above and beyond trying to help citizens in the county. And they truly care. They come from a place of caring and compassion. They put in a lot of time, extra training, try to do things. I will say Montgomery County is very proactive. Even before de-escalation became a national topic, it was something our department was doing before that. We were doing a lot of the things that now is brought in the highlight. We'd already had in our training plans. We'd already been instilling in recruits. And when we go to recertification every year, instilling it in officers who've been on, more than an academy. So, it can be a little disheartening. But, again, we are all pro positive change. I think what most officers will ask is that when change is made, it has to be a partnership in making that change. And I say that because sometimes when a blanket policy is put into effect, or a change in law, something of that matter, is it may have a very good intent, but sometimes it has unintended consequences.
Mhm.
And people who aren't doing this job don't realize what those consequences might be. So I think sometimes more of a partnership in talking about this, and really looking at what the possible changes might be, see where that change, what it could lead to. And I think we'd go better if we did things like that. And I think for most part, most people do. I think, as you'd agree, it's very emotional topic for everybody involved. And
Mhm.
sometimes, it's very hard to say, okay, let's draw back from the emotion and let's talk about what the issue is. Because sometimes when we attack each other in conversation, we shut each other off. And so we might have a great idea, but when you're being attacked verbally, you may not be open to that idea and go forward. So I think that, keep the process we're doing, but do it in such an open way, not an attacking form, so we can work together and keep moving forward.
Yeah, so building a better relationship, better lines of communication between the departments and the community that they're serving.
Correct. I mean, and for example, in Montgomery County, the school resource program, it was an amazing program established back in 1994. The officers who are in that program, they're truly dedicated to the communities they work in and the students they work in, and the relationships they built with the staff the students, the community. It went beyond just policing. It was that bridge that was missing. And I truly, and this is just me speaking, not having our police officers in schools has really been a disservice to the community. And the majority of, community members that I meet in the schools and so forth, whether it be administrators, teachers, parents, each one of them always said that they want the officers back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure there are many examples like that where, like you were saying, kind of maybe laws or blanket laws sort of get laid out, and there isn't those lines of communication where people are talking about why something affects them and how it affects them, and things get swept under the rug like that. Yeah, we see that in mediation constantly, as you know.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you actually had mentioned, during the training or in the police academy, citizens can come in to assist with the training. What are some other ways that citizens and residents can get involved and learn more about their police officers that are there to serve them, and maybe volunteer in some way with the
Sure. Well,
police departments?
one of the biggest thing is we have a citizens academy. Any citizen can go online, go to our website, and apply to go to the citizens academy. We have one in English and we have one in Spanish. And this is where citizens will apply for, get accepted, and for a period of weeks, they'll go to the academy once a week, and they'll get an observation and shown the different things our department does. Everything from patrol to investigation, the canine, and get a better understanding of how we function as a department. And that's open to all citizens. And we, again, have an English and Spanish. And then we also have a volunteer unit. You can also go online, you can apply, and where there's opportunity, whether it could be at the station, whether it could be at headquarters or different things, if they need volunteers to come help with something, they'll go ahead and set that up.
Oh, that's cool. All right, great. Yeah, I'll make sure I find the links for those parts of the website, and I'll throw them in the video for anybody watching. Officer Veiga, I really appreciate you coming on here today. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I do have one final question for you, though, and that is, what does peace in the community look like to you?
Peace in the community, for me, it really establishes about respect. We don't all have to understand everything, but if we come from a place of respect, we can go a lot further. So, keeping that open mind, no matter where you are in this community or what you do in this community, if you always come from a place of respect and treat with people with respect, everything usually will go much more, smoother. It'll be much more peaceful.
Definitely. And yeah, that respect has to go both ways. Yeah, I agree. Mauricio, thank you so much for coming on today. Is there anything else you'd like to say to anybody watching before we sign off?
The only thing I'm going to say is I hope they go to your website, check out your program. You guys do some great work in this county.
Yeah, and we certainly appreciate the partnership with the police, referring cases to our center to give residents the opportunity to try and come to their, bring their conflicts to resolution on their own. So thank you again for joining us today, and thank everybody who tuned in for this episode of Conversations on Conflict. If you want to know more about the Conflict Resolution Center, you can visit us online at our website, which is CRCMC.org. And if you'd like to support our programs and support our center and the work that we do, you can make a donation at crcmc.org/donate now. Thank you again, officer. And thanks again, everybody who tuned in. Take care. We'll see you next time.